Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. I am your host, Rick Scouler. Our guest today is Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Mr. Medvec has had many experiences, contact experiences throughout his life. And in addition to that, in 2012, he went in for regression hypnotherapy to try to recall a certain experience that happened to him at the age of 5. He was able to retrieve some of those memories, and he's going to talk to us about that as well. Some amazing stuff, let me say that. He is also an author. He has written 2 books to date, one entitled UFOs over PA, Pennsylvania, the other Mid-Atlantic UFOs, and we'll ask him about those as well. So, coming up, Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this quick message.
Visitors from outer space!
We come in peace to bring you terrific tasting space dust sizzling candy.
Space dust?
Wait till you experience the sizzle of galactic grape, orbiting orange, and cosmic cherry flavors.
Wow, the cherry tastes delicious! I'm sizzling grape.
Space dust sizzling candy. In your mouth, it's out of this world.
Far out!
Space Dust, available in outer space or your local store. And now, on with the show.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and at this time introduce our guest for the evening, Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Jerry, are you out there?
Yeah. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Good, good. You don't mind me calling you Jerry, do you?
Actually, I'd rather you would. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So Jerry, as I explained to the viewers before break, your experiences go way back, and before we get into your experiences deeply, I was noticing something on your bio, and I was thinking about it last night, and I wanted to ask you what you thought about it. But on your bio, you know, it says that you had your first experience around the age of 5 years
Right.
of age, right?
Correct.
And it seems with all the contactees, the abductees that I've spoken to over the last few years, that age 5 seems to be a constant as far as those people that have had lifelong experiences. And I'm just wondering, do you think that's because, you know, that's when these entities tend to first make contact? Or do you think it is because as adult humans, that's about as far back as we can remember in our lives? You know, is it possible that they're making contact even younger than 5? I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, actually, you know, that's a really good question, and I have to admit right up front that I have not given it much thought. However, while you were talking, something dawned on me, and that was that first of all, my grandson, one of my grandsons, let me say it that way, one of my grandsons, his mom was telling me last year that he's been having some strange and frightening dreams at night, and it's unclear what the problem is. He won't talk about it. In fact, I've asked him point blank. I said, "Do you want to talk about what's been bothering you?" And he said, "No, I don't want to talk about it." Now he's 6 years old, but when this happened, guess how old he was? He was 5.
Wow.
5. Now, I don't know what the circumstances are. Remember, we don't know.
Right,
but
right.
There's something bothering the kid, and he's tell you up front, "I don't want to talk about it, Grandpa." So there's that. Also, another thing jumped into my head is there's a story in the Mid-Atlantic UFOs book that I just came out with a couple of months ago, set in West Virginia, but the story starts out actually in Colorado and Utah, where some abductees ran into some other abductees, and one of them was an human infant. So I really can't answer your question. I think regression might get you back into almost any time of your life, even pre-birth. So if something was happened in your life with aliens, let's get right to it, with aliens, and you were regressed back to your first experience with them, assuming you've had some, then it possibly an experience when you were younger than 5 could pop up, I suspect. But again, I'm just guessing at all this.
Yeah, no, I just found it interesting.
Really good question, quite frankly.
I'm just wondering if there's other contactees, abductees out there that have any knowledge on that. Please let me know. So Jerry, your experiences, and there have been, from what I see, 34, I think, experiences to date.
Right.
Now, did all of these come back to you when you decided to go in for regression hypnotherapy in 2012, or did you know some of them already, and then the hypnotherapy just brought out more?
The second half of that is correct.
Okay.
I've been having experiences, conscious experiences, most of the time, not always, but most of the time with other witnesses, since around 1991, 2, 3, somewhere in there. I think it was around 93, actually, when the TV show Sightings was on the Fox network. And a couple of times during that show, they featured Pine Bush, New York. Well, if you've been around the ufology loop a few times, you know that Pine Bush, New York is a hot spot, or at least certainly was up to and including the 90s, and even still today they have their occasional sightings. But the properties, the ground around there has been also much more developed. So there's a lot more people there. Maybe it's not quite as exciting as it once was, but. And it's a shame to have to say that people are not as exciting as aliens, but they're not. That's nothing to it. So I went up there with with a friend of mine, and had an experience, and that was and I went looking for them. So it was kind of interesting. People said on TV, on several of the shows, yes, in Pine Bush we go up and watch UFOs. So I said to my friend, look, you want to go up there and we'll spend the night, and we'll see what happens. And he said, okay. And sure enough, something happened. So that was the first really conscious memory I have of it. And then since then, I've had 31 of the 34 experiences are conscious experiences without regression.
Let's talk a little bit about the first one, the one when you were 5, because this is pretty traumatic story as far as being a little kid and having this happen to you. Can you tell us that experience?
Sure. Now, this is one of the experiences that I learned about in 2012 on June 2nd at 1:30 in the afternoon during a hypnotic regression. And I want to preface it by saying that I had this regression done because of a conscious memory I had of one night when I was 5 years old. And I only remembered 3 points in the night, and that they were that I was paralyzed, I was terrified, and there was this brilliant, bright light coming out underneath the closet door in the bedroom when there had never been electricity in that closet for the 19 years I lived in the house. Now, at the time, my little brother was in a crib on the other side of the room. He was 2 years old, if I was 5, and I wanted to find out, what happened? Why did I always have this memory all my life of those 3 points happening that one night? It just always perplexed me. And I thought, well, someday if I ever get a chance, I'll get regressed, and we'll see what happens. Well, here comes the day. It showed up. So I went, and the lady put me under, and she said, let's go back to that night. And I said, no problem. And it was nice, clear, vivid. and I was. It had to be a fairly cool night, even though it was either like late spring or early summer, because I had just a sheet on me, and I went to bed as I always did with as a child. I always went to bed with my long pajama bottoms, no top, and that was it. And so sure enough, there I was in bed with that and the sheet over me, and I suddenly started feeling paralyzed, and this bright light pops on underneath the closet. Now, in the closet was just normally what you would just expect to find in a kid's closet. There's a shelf on the top with boxes. There's a bar that holds all your clothes, and there's all the boxes and toys on the floor. Very, very standard repertoire. Right. But this particular night, this bright light came on, and there was no electricity in there. And the door, as I was becoming paralyzed, the door swung open. In walks an alien gray.
Oh.
He walks in, walks right up to my. He doesn't bother with my brother at all. Showed no interest in him whatsoever. Walked beeline right up to the head of the bed, which my bed was on the out. The head of the bed was on the outside wall, facing in towards the room, so I could see the closet clearly. And he comes up, takes the sheet with his left hand, pulls it down to about my thigh level, and in his right hand he has some type of like a little. He's holding something. Of course, I can't see it because his right hand is blocking most of it. But out the bottom is a pointed metallic-looking thing, and it's like a large nail that you might, like a wood nail you might put into used in construction. And he just took that and he popped me right in the navel with that. Pulled up the sheet as nice as anything, turned, walked out through the door. The door closed after a moment behind him. And by the way, when the door opened, there was nothing in that closet but bright light. Now, I cannot explain that to you, obviously. I'm never going to be able to explain that to anybody, but that's what I saw. So he goes through into the light, the door closes, and the light folds in on itself. It doesn't shut off like a light switch that we have here. The light folded in from the two ends to the center and then shot in underneath the closet door. That's how the light went out.
And you did not remember this, or at least the details of this, until the hypnotherapy.
That's correct.
So for X amount of decades, you always had this memory somewhat in the back of your mind. You just could never put all the pieces together, basically, or?
That's exactly right. I mean, it made no sense to me as I grew up, and with this night, and this night would pop into my head every once in a while when the subject of the paranormal came up, or strange things that you've experienced, or something like that. Mm-hmm. This night would always pop into my head, and I thought, well, I only know three things about it, and that's paralyzed, terrified, and bright light. That's all I knew. So but it always was with me. It always stayed with me. And I have to say, and I don't know if you've had experiences yourself with UFOs, or how many of your audience have had experiences, but at least with me and a number of the people I've interviewed, once something happens, it does not go away. Mm-hmm. It stays with you. Well, even if it's an odd detail that doesn't show anything alien, perhaps, like this night. Those three memories had nothing to do with aliens as far as I ever knew up until June 2nd, 2012. So, something about it.
Yeah, there is something, I don't know whether it's just because they're so bizarre, they're so different, that you can't forget about them, or if there's a deeper meaning to it. But yeah, I don't think anybody that's ever experienced something like that seems to forget them. They're etched into the mind, that's for sure. So life goes on from the age of 5. You have experiences at the age of 13, at the age of 46, and then from what I understand, just a couple of weeks ago, you had another experience. Out of all of these experiences you've had throughout your life, besides now this one at 5 years old, is there one that stands out as being more bizarre or more unusual than any of the others?
Yeah, really.
Boy, that was a devious.
Well,
yeah.
when you're talking about UFO experiences, Rick, and when you've had 34 experiences that you are certain about, and many others that I'm not certain about, by the way. There's always going to be something at the top of the pile to rattle your cage now and then. And I have to tell you, I wrote about this in my first UFO book that came out this past June. It's UFOs Above Pennsylvania. The last story in the book, it's called Invasion. And it is really strange.
Give us an overview.
The overview is that when I was living in a house up in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, which is in Chester County, southeastern Pennsylvania, this one particular night, a number of things showed up, and it was a good place for it to show up because in my bedroom there were the house was on a hill, and it was so that the hill slanted down along the side, from the side, so your house faced the street, but you were on a hill, slanting downward that way, and this particular bedroom was on the part of the house where the hill was below, so you had a pretty clear view of the sky and all, even though you're not far off the ground, And this metallic device showed up outside the window.
Oh.
And I was awake. I woke up. I woke up to see it. I was not awake. I woke up to see it. And what woke me up, I'm never going to know, but something told me to open my eyes, and I did. And here's this thing. It looked kind of like a closed 2-gallon painter's bucket spinning around, and it's so fast that it would distort, so you couldn't really tell what it was. And I've seen pictures of this on the internet and on television, UFO shows on TV.
Yes,
Other people have captured this device.
Yeah, I've heard of them, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so please go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of a familiar thing. And the interesting thing about the window that I was looking out is that while it had no curtains on it, no window dressing whatsoever, except one of the balloon valances they were called, if I remember right. So I could look out the window for no problem. I had lots of space. And it was a triple window, and each section of window was separated by a 1-foot wide mullion. Now that's a little bit different. 1 foot wide is a pretty wide piece of wood. It's an older house, obviously. And when I first woke up and saw this thing, it knew it, and it backed up and hid behind the mullion outside. It was flying around outside, and it fit itself very nicely behind the mullion, so I couldn't see it. And I thought, oh, what the heck? So I stayed laying back down, and I didn't move. And although my impulse was to get up and jump to the window, that's true, but I didn't do it. Now I've already had this is around. I should have looked this up. It's around 2006 or so, I think, that this happened. Okay, so I've already had a number of UFO experiences under my belt. And as I stayed calm in the bed, it moves back into view. It's checking me out. So now I get out of the bed quick and try to get over to the window. And as I do, it zips up over the top of the house and is gone. So Jesus. I got back into my bed. And my bed, which was, by the way, a sofa, slept on a sofa in this place, and thought I'd go back to sleep. Well, no sooner did I get back in bed and get comfortable, here it comes again. Now it's back outside the window. I'm thinking, wow, this is really a little bit above and beyond for this thing to return, so I get another really good look at it. And now I'm just laying there with my eyes sort of like cracked open, but not exactly, not wide open, because I'm trying to fool it. And I did. I was able to fool it. As I laid there with my eyes like that, it stayed in view. As soon as I started making a move to maybe get up or something, zoom, it just started moving away and disappearing. Well, we played this game a couple of times, and then it was gone. Well, I thought, maybe that'll be the end of it. Well, it was not. It was not. Within about, I'm going to guesstimate, about a half an hour, something else appeared outside the window. This time it was the window. By the way, this bucket device appeared in the center window. The next thing appeared in the right-hand window, my right hand facing the window from inside. And it appeared at the lower sash rather than the upper. The sashes were 1 over 1. So there was no mullions in between the glass. They were, just glass windows. And it looked like, and it really did just appear there. I mean, I didn't see it fly up or anything like that, although I assume it did, but I didn't see that. It just simply appeared. I opened my eyes, there it was. It was outside the window, maybe about 6 inches from the window, and it was framed within the frame of the lower sash very nicely, so it would fit in there if I wanted to glue it in or something. And it was shaped like what I call a sort of like a futuristic doily. It had many, well, if you know what a doily is, that your grandmother put under the lamp on the end table in the living room.
Right.
Yeah, it looks something like that. Now I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying something like that. I'm not saying that's what it was. But it had the lattice work. It was like a filigree design. It was a milky white. Barely, it was visible, but it had a milkiness to it.
Now,
it wasn't clear. It wasn't metallic. Didn't look metallic. It looked milky.
Was it? Was it looking forward? I mean, was it? When you say a doily, I take it was circular in
It was
shape.
circular, correct. That's
and
correct.
was it horizontal where you saw the whole circular shape, or was it vertical so that you could see the whole circular shape, or was it like laying down in a horizontal position, or?
No, it was vertical.
Vertical.
It was vertical. I could see the whole thing as if I was getting ready to put it on a tabletop and set a lamp on it. I could see the whole thing as if I was holding up in the air in front of me. But I was still on the sofa laying down, and this thing appeared, and it started to move towards the window. And it was making a pace of about, if I could give you an estimate on this, maybe about 2 inches per second. So it's moving slow towards the window. Window is all glass. It's double sash window. There's there's the double sash of the regular window, and there was also a storm window there. It came through the glass, through all the pieces of glass, at the same pace. It didn't slow down when it got to the glass. Came right through the glass. There was a slight distortion when this happened. There was no noise. There was no glass breaking, cracking, or making any other sound, but then I could see a slight distortion, and it came right into the room and stopped just over top of the windowsill. So now it was in my room. Well, I have to tell you that, and I thought this even as I was watching it, because now I was scared. Now I was scared.
Yeah.
It's real different. It's real different when you're watching stuff fly around outside your window or up in the sky, or even if it's on the ground and it's 50, 100 yards away. That's all one thing. When it comes into your bedroom in your house, now it's very different.
It's invaded your area. It's invaded your privacy.
It's very different. So I'm watching this thing. I have my eyes in a slit formation. I just have them just cracked open so I can watch and yet let them think I'm still out of it. And then it's there for a few moments, and suddenly from this, and by the way, I said this was a filigree design, so it had spaces all between it. And by the way, in the book UFOs Above PA, my wife did a drawing on top of an actual photo of the room to try to simulate what this thing looked like, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But it's very faint, and it was nighttime. But this was easy, well lit. It's what was well lit outside this house because this house was right on the edge of an alleyway. So the side of the house was on an alley, and at the corner of the property was a street lamp. So everything was very well lit for this. I didn't struggle with lighting. It was pretty good. So no sooner is this thing, it's sitting now, it stops just inside the window, and it's very thin looking. It's very thin. If it was more than a quarter or 3/8 of an inch in thickness, that would be about my guess. Maybe a half inch. That's no more. And then from the center of it comes or appears. It appears from the center a globe, a clear, crystal globe, maybe about 3 to 4 inches in diameter. Ultra thin. It reminded me very much of one of those bubbles that, you know, you blow when your kids are blowing bubbles with the toy, where they get the bottle of soap and they get the little circular holder and you stick it in and you blow through it and these little bubbles come out sometimes.
Right.
Except that it did not have that iridescence to it like the bubbles do, you know, like colors swirling around. No, it was crystal clear, but it seemed as thin as that. It's almost like nothing. And it came into the room at about 3-4 inches a second. You know, not zooming, but not it was. I could see it moving. And as it came in a straight line right off of the doily, and it was headed for the door, the hallway door, the bedroom door, is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, which was wood. And but as it came in about halfway to the room, I'm still able to see it lying on the sofa. It took a turn, and it went up into a corner of the room that was very dark, and it didn't really get lit well from the street light outside. And as it hit the shadows, Rick, it just vanished. Now, I think it's still there, but you can no longer see it. You can't see it. It's in your room. It's watching you, or me, in my case, or anybody, for that matter, because I don't consider myself a special person. I think if these guys could do this in my room, they can do it in anybody's room.
The whole thing with this contactee and abduction phenomenon, I mean, how do you prove it to society? You know, because I still think the majority of people tend not to believe these types of stories. People who have not experienced some type of contact, who have not experienced some type of abduction. How do you prove it? I mean, you really can't, until it happens to them.
My little saying now is, you cannot prove multi-dimensional experiences in a three-dimensional plane.
Yeah.
That's my quick answer to that. You know, but you can prove it to yourself. You can do that.
Yeah. And
I've done that. I've proved these things are proven to me. I don't need to, wonder anymore. Are we alone? That question is so out of here for me. It's not even funny. It's not about are we alone. It's what do we do next?
Well, see, that's kind of the way I look at it too. As far as the UFOs, do they exist? Well, of course they exist. We've got so much proof. It's ridiculous. The question now is, who are they and what do they want? What are they doing here? How long have they been here? So yeah, I agree with you with that. Well, listen, Jerry, we're getting low on time here, and I want to make sure we talk a little bit about your books. I mean, besides being a contactee, you are an author as well. Right now, you have 2 books out. One entitled UFOs Above Pennsylvania, and the other one's called Mid-Atlantic UFOs. Is that correct?
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Now, which one did you do first? The UFOs over PA?
Pennsylvania, correct.
Pennsylvania. Yeah. And what motivated you to go ahead and write about this? Did you just feel like you wanted to get this information out to people? Was it therapeutic for yourself as well? What was your push behind doing these books?
Well, it's more about getting the information out.
Mm-hmm.
I had back in 2011, my stepson Mark Sarro, who is also my co-author on UFOs Above Pennsylvania, I need to say, he was finishing up a book called Ghost of Delaware, and he was sort of running into some roadblocks and all, and he knew that I had used to be a freelance writer a number of years ago, and he said, look, would you help me out with finish this, and we'll make you a co-author? And I said, yeah, okay. I've never been involved with a book. I've been involved with articles and short stories and plays and things, but never a book, so I thought, well, this is my big chance. So we went with it, and it got finished, and it got published, and it's out. That's fine. And then I decided afterwards, I said, man, that was fun. I have all these stories And so many other people have these stories of UFO encounters that are not being told. They're not getting told, or at least they're not getting out to the public. But even when they're being told within their tight circles, a lot of times people get, emotionally whacked over the head by friends and family who don't want to hear it.
Yep.
And I've experienced that a little bit in my life, but I've been also blessed to say that many of my friends and family have been very tolerant, very accepting of the stories that have happened, the things that have happened to me. So I thought, well, maybe I can help myself a little bit and some of these folks by, soliciting their stories. See, nobody gets paid for giving their stories. Nobody gets anything. And most people don't even want their names put in it, you know?
Right.
Only on the rare occasion have someone's real name been used, and I had to get release forms for that, Of course, Mark and I used our names in the Pennsylvania book. We're standing up next to it. We'll take the heat for it, if there's going to be any heat. And I wanted the average Joe to get his story out there, because a lot of times people forget about that. They get wrapped up in how many alien species are there, and where are they all from, and what is it? It's really important to find that out. And yes, it is. Yes, it is. But let's not run over the little guy who's had this experience and had it bottled up inside him for 5, 10, 50 years.
Right.
Let's try to give these guys a chance, the folks who want it, to see if we can get their story out there. And I will tell it as faithfully as I can.
That's kind of weird that you say that, Jerry, because that's a lot of what we do on this show is we give the quote unquote little person, the medium in which to tell their story, because the UFO shows on regular network or cable, they have a lot of the same people over and over again. They tell the same stories over and over again. But the real stories are out there amongst the masses, and far more interesting than a lot of the stuff that they show on television. A great example is the story we just heard from you.
Well, there you go. Okay. Now, down the road, if in 5 years from now a movie comes out and it has that scene in it, believe me, I have not been paid for it. I probably will not have been paid for it. This is the kind of stuff, these kind of stories that I found, not just mine, by the way. I mean, everybody's, the people I've interviewed, are the kind of stories that other writers will pick up on and turn into a sci-fi movie or so. Wait to see. Wait and see it happen.
If people wanted to get in touch with you, is there any way they can do that? Websites, Facebook pages, or anything that you'd like to give out?
Why don't I just give them my direct email address? I'm okay with that. It's Medvec, that's GMED, V as in Victor, EC, then the number 1, at gmail.com.
Very good. Very good.
That puts you right on my desk.
Well, listen, Jerry, we weren't able to get to everything tonight, so perhaps you could come back again, maybe in 2014, coming around here pretty soon, and come back for a second whack at it, because I'd like to talk to you more about some of your other experiences.
Be happy to. Yeah, there's a lot more ground to cover. Oh my goodness.
All right, very good. Well, listen, Jerry, thanks again. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Those books again, UFOs over PA, Pennsylvania, and Mid-Atlantic UFOs by Gerard J. Medvec. Jerry, thanks, and we will talk to you soon.
Take care, Rick.
Bye-bye.
The answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. I am your host, Rick Scouler. Our guest today is Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Mr. Medvec has had many experiences, contact experiences throughout his life. And in addition to that, all humans, that's about as far back as we can remember in our lives. You know, is it possible that they're making contact even younger than 5? I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, actually, that's a really good question, and I have to admit right up front that I have not given it much thought. However, while you were talking, something dawned on me, and that was that, first of all, my grandson, one of my grandsons, let me say it that way, one of my grandsons, his mom was telling me last year that he's been having some strange and frightening dreams at night.
Ooh.
And it's unclear what the problem is. He won't talk about it. In fact, I've asked him point blank. I said, "Do you want to talk about what's been bothering you?" And he said, "No, I don't want to talk about it." Now he's 6 years old, but when this happened, guess how old he was? He was 5.
Wow.
5. Now, I don't know what the circumstances are. Remember, we don't know.
Right. In 2012, he went in for regression hypnotherapy to try to recall a certain experience that happened to him at the age of 5. He was able to retrieve some of those memories, and he's going to talk to us about that as well. Some amazing stuff, let me say that. He is also an author. He has written 2 books to date, one entitled UFOs over PA, Pennsylvania, the other Mid-Atlantic UFOs, and we'll ask him about those as well. So, coming up, Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this quick message.
Visitors from outer space!
We come in peace to bring you terrific tasting space dust sizzling candy.
Space dust?
Wait till you experience the...
And before we get into your experiences deeply, I was noticing something on your bio, and I was thinking about it last night, and I wanted to ask you what you thought about it. But on your bio, it says that you had your first experience around the age of 5 years
Right.
of age, right?
Correct.
And it seems with all the contactees, the abductees that I've spoken to over the last few years, that age 5 seems to be a constant as far as those people that have had lifelong experiences. And I'm just wondering, do you think that's because, that's when these entities tend to first make contact? Or do you think it is because as adults...
Sizzle of galactic grape, orbiting orange, and cosmic cherry flavors.
Wow, the cherry tastes delicious! I'm sizzling grape.
Space dust sizzling candy. In your mouth, it's out of this world.
Far out!
Space Dust, available in outer space or your local store. And now, on with the show.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and at this time introduce our guest for the evening, Mr. Gerard J. Medvec. Jerry, are you out there?
Yeah. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Good. You don't mind me calling you Jerry, do you?
Actually, I'd rather you would. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So Jerry, as I explained to the viewers before break, your experiences go way back.